Hi, this is Mike Maloney, and the evidence is mounting that the next global financial crisis is on its way. And that is the reason that I own silver, gold, and cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin to protect myself. I want things that are outside of the banking system and beyond their reach, beyond their grasp. You'll see later in this video that the banks are getting prepared for something. And they've already passed bail-in laws, and I own these alternative financial assets to protect myself from bubbles, bail-ins, and bailouts. What you'll see here is Deutsche Bank just came out with their report a little while ago that says that Italy is a crisis waiting to happen. Italy is on the brink of triggering the next financial crisis as the weakest link in Europe. Another article, the next Italian bank threatens to topple. If you haven't been paying attention, there have been a wave of bank failures in northern Italy. They have very unstable banks there where their bad loans, the non-performing loans, are far greater than their assets. So their ability to pay for the bad stuff, they just don't have that ability. They don't have the cash to be able to pay for the bad stuff. So what's been happening is banks have been closing and then getting bailed out, and they reopen as a different bank over the weekend. These things always happen over the weekend, folks. So one of the things here is you can't wait until a crisis happens to get prepared for it, because what happens is you wake up and it's already on the news. The people up at the top have been keeping everything secret, and they try to struggle with it and come up with a solution. And you may wake up one morning and the banks are closed. I live in Puerto Rico, and we had a hurricane go through here, and the banks were closed for a few weeks. Here, Deutsche Bank, Italy's three big problems could trigger the next financial crisis. And here in their report, what they're citing, the candidates include a Chinese slowdown, Brexit, the central bank policy, and Italy. And it does say that it's the next global financial crisis. It also says that this could threaten to bring down the euro with it. So what they're talking about is something huge. If Italy's problems can bring down the euro, that means that this is going to sweep around the world. And since they mentioned China in this article as being one of the problems, I want to show you something over here on the Telegraph. This is from the UK. Debt boom in India and China threatens new financial crisis, warns the World Economic Forum. And if you scroll down just a little bit here, there's a chart of China's debt to GDP. And what you see is that before the crisis of 2008, it was below 200% of GDP. And in the first quarter of 2016, it was approaching 300%. I would imagine that it has surpassed 300% of GDP. And why is China so important? That's actually one of the potential triggers for the next global financial crisis. There's China, there's Japan, and there's the Eurozone are the most unstable areas. And if that happens, it's going to suck Australia into a black hole. Australia is an implosion waiting to happen. They have a real estate bubble there that is enormous, but they are so incredibly dependent on China's economy. The share of merchandise exports to China. I gave a presentation in Australia several years ago, and I was showing the audience this data, how dependent they are on China. And then I started showing them some of the bubbles that were going on in China, and they're government-mandated and government-funded bubbles. So the real estate bubbles that we filmed and the empty complexes and so on all over China, it's massive. But you never know when a government-mandated and government-funded bubble is going to pop, but eventually the free market always overcomes a manipulation. And when the government is funding a bubble, that's a manipulation. But the evidence here that the banks are getting prepared for it, here is the European Central Bank proposes to end deposit protection. So in here, they're proposing to end deposit insurance for accounts that are under 100,000 euros. These covered deposits should be replaced by limited discretionary exemptions to be granted by the competent authority. So someone that's arrogant enough that thinks that they know how to run everything is going to decide who gets what in order to retain a degree of flexibility. They want more flexibility. Now, the paragraph here, though, that really does bother me is, during a transitional period, depositors should have access to an appropriate amount of their covered deposits to cover the cost of living, their cost of living, within 5 working days of a request. So you ask the bank for some of your deposits, some of your currency, and they're going to decide what allowance you get, and they're going to get back to you with that decision in 5 days. So to me, this is a time to have alternative financial assets such as precious metals and cryptocurrencies. And it's also a time where you should probably have access to some cash. You know, I live in Puerto Rico. We had a hurricane go through here. And when it went through here, this exact same thing happened. For a couple of weeks, the banks were closed, and what you had access to was $50 per day from the ATMs. That's all that anybody was allowed, was $50 per day. And this is $50 per day in an emergency. Not when you need less cash available, but when you need more cash available. In an emergency, you've got to be able to have the resources to pay extra for things. You may even have to bribe somebody. This is a matter of survival that we're talking about. So what I have chosen, like I said, is cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. I own some other cryptocurrencies. I don't want to tell anybody what they are because then I become like a stock picker. I don't want anybody following me as to what to pick as far as a cryptocurrency goes. But I do sell some of my profits once in a while and turn them into silver. Silver has a 5,000-year history, silver and gold, of protecting your wealth. And they are three-dimensional, they have weight, and I know that silver is undervalued right now. I can measure it compared to the rest of the economy. I don't really know how to measure cryptocurrencies. They're brand new. They are a feature. They're a permanent feature of monetary history now. They are going forward. Cryptocurrencies are going to become a lot more important. You know, right now, it's a small group of people that get interested in it, and it's being treated more as a speculation. But this is going to have a permanent effect on the future of the monetary system, cryptocurrencies. But I urge you to read this article, and I also urge you to read the article on Australia, the House of Cards. This is a long article, but it just shows you how leveraged they are and how it's just a bubble waiting for a pin. And when that happens, all economies on the planet now are so interconnected that they all start taking each other down. And so the ECB is getting ready for bank holidays and getting ready to control people's access to their own assets. Now, one of the problems that we do have with alternative currencies is the gateways. In an emergency, you may need to turn Bitcoin into dollars, and the government can control the gateways. If you have gold and silver coins, people recognize gold as having value, and you can use that in an emergency. I have storage in Hong Kong, Singapore, Salt Lake City, and in Toronto, Canada. I have gold and silver stored in vaults, and I can liquidate it instantly and turn it into cash if I want. But it's outside the banking system. It's fully insured. But I want to show you something here and see if you think this is sustainable. Now, this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So this is not tech. It's not cryptocurrencies. This is the biggest, stodgiest companies in the United States, the big 30 companies. This isn't a picture of the NASDAQ. This is the Dow Jones. Does this look sustainable to you? This looks to me to be more of a bubble blow-off top than we had back during the real estate bubble of 2007 or the top that the stock market hit in the year 2000. When this all comes crashing down, and I believe it will, I have chosen to make sure that I have some access to some cash, to some gold, silver, and that I've got some cryptocurrencies. Thank you very much for listening. If you got anything from this, please subscribe to our channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.